So we're up here today, going to start adding some of our comb honey supers. The honey flow seems a little earlier. You'll see we leave a small gap here at the bottom. You can see my hive tool come through. And the reason we do that is whenever the bees start to kind of draw this thin surplus foundation out, the weight of the bees will stretch them to the rest to kind of touch the bottom. And that way, whenever, like I said, if you were to put this with the bees all the way going, or with the comb honey going with no gap, the bees would stretch it and it would start to bow. This should hopefully keep it straight. It still takes 10 comb honey frames, just like you would with any other box. But we've already got everybody primed. This, I was in here earlier this week, and this box here looked like they were already starting to put quite a bit of honey up, especially for this time of year for us. Really, our honey flow normally, for me anyway, starts pretty heavy in May and even into June, and we're here in April. And whenever I last looked, they were starting to fill this box up quite a bit. We'll take a look and just see what they're doing. You can see, if you count, I've got 9 frames in this box. Now it's not full. I don't expect it to be full, but considering that our honey flow really, like I said, hasn't started yet, I think we've got a pretty good start to this season. You can see they're starting to fill out the cells. And what I don't want to do is wait until this box is completely full before I add my comb honey super. Otherwise, they'll have nowhere to store honey. They'll start to backfill, and they'll be much more likely to swarm. But you can see there's still plenty of cells on that frame. And if we come to the outside frame, there's just a few cells that have honey in it. More of them than not have not even been filled yet. So we should have some room or some time before the bees are going to get that filled up on us. So what we're going to do to make sure they draw it pretty good, or draw our comb honey super, so we're going to take this, and that fills probably about, I'm guessing, a third of the way full already. And we'll have to keep an eye on them because they have to draw this out before they can even start to store honey in it. So I may have to come back and add another box of combs on this hive before everything is said and done. But what we're going to do is we're going to make sure they're lined up. We've got 10 in the box. And then just to really kind of help us out, we're going to leave just a small gap here at the back for extra ventilation. We've got our queen excluder here, so our queen shouldn't start laying into our comb honey. But basically just enough that a bee could kind of slip in and out of one of these corners. And that will help reduce their swarm tendency, so that hopefully we will end up getting that drawn out pretty quick. Especially when I look in the forecast, we've got some pretty scattered rain showers coming, as well as we've got lots of sunshine in between, and we're just really starting to pick up into our honey flow here locally, I believe. If you look over here, you can see some blackberries that have already started to bloom. I imagine give that another week, and we're going to really be going pretty good with our blackberry flow. And then that will be followed up by tulip poplar, clover. You'll eventually see sumac, and then we'll even, in our area, we'll get some row crop from soybeans and cotton. So we've got quite a bit ahead of us. I believe this year is going to be a good year unless something changes with the weather. Now we've got 3 comb honey supers already made up. We'll probably do more than that before the year's over with. What we're fixing to do is go in and look and see if we can find another hive or 2 that could use some comb honey. If not, we may have to take them over to one of our other yards. All right, so here we are at another hive that I found. Looks like a pretty good candidate. It is a big hive. We've actually already pulled splits off of it. I'm going to show you some of the things I like about these frames and some of the things I don't. I do like that this has a thinner top bar. It makes it easier when it comes time to punch out our 4x2 and our 4x4 sections. And essentially, if you look kind of close to the top, all we've done is taken a bead of wax and kind of melted it into this groove. And I'll hold that up so you can see it a little bit easier. And that's what holds it in there. There's nothing else. There's no wires. There's no staples or pins. What I'll eventually do is come in here and I will manipulate any of the comb if I feel like I need to be sure it continues to be drawn straight. But one of the things that I have found with these particular frames is it is very difficult to clean them and reuse them, because they have a very narrow channel for the foundation to go, versus something like this frame that has been used a couple times now, but it's got a thicker sidebar. It's got a deeper channel, but the top bar there is thicker, and it gives you less room when it comes time to cut out your comb honey. So these are easier to clean, but they're harder when it comes time to process down the road. We did get some simple comb that we're going to try this year. I'll eventually get those frames kind of set up and get those on a hive, and we'll kind of go through the differences that we see using them versus, you know, our traditional way of making honey that we use, which is going to be what you see here. Now, I do, like I said, like to leave a little gap just for the bees to get in and out. I think it helps curve swarming, and I think it helps get the bees to go ahead and come through that excluder. Another thing I like to do in addition to that is I'll find something like this, which is just a broken limb. I'll take and I'll tear me off a piece of it, and then I will lift up and I'll just kind of pop it in right here, just so again I have more ventilation. I think it helps with our swarming. I think it helps pull these bees up through the excluder, and then hopefully they'll go ahead and draw that comb honey section out for us pretty quick, and we'll be able to use it. So when we're looking for a strong hive for our comb honey, we want somebody who's really already working that top super. And if you look, you can see these bees have really already taken to these combs, and they're already starting to fill honey into these boxes. So the only thing we're going to do now, since they're already committed to this box, we're going to lift it up, slide our comb honey super right above the excluder, and then put this back on top. So we're just going to take our lid off. We'll smoke our bees down a little bit. It's late in the evening. They don't necessarily like being messed with this late in the day. But there's a little bit of weight there. Not as much as the last one, but they're committed to that box. And we'll just drop this right on top of our excluder. Make sure our frames are in the center. And then we're going to go right back on top with our box that the bees are already committed to. And again, they don't like having a gap. So there's comb, now just foundations. And the bees will be really quick to draw that out and hopefully fill it up with our comb honey. We may have to come back, and as we go along, we may have to actually kind of adjust the comb honey as they draw it out. As we come back in the future, I will show you what I'm talking about. And it's basically, if they don't draw it perfect, sometimes I'll have to kind of help nudge the comb the direction I want it to go. So basically the main thing we try to do here is find our biggest hives and our strongest hives, try to get our comb honey on somewhat early, especially when the bees are really starting to draw out some comb and foundation, so they can hurry up and draw that down as quick as they can. Me personally, I like to set my comb honey right above the excluder so that they move up, and they don't like that gap between drawing comb and the excluder, and they'll want to draw that out pretty quick. If you have any questions on comb honey or how else we do it, always comment, like, subscribe, or reach out to us, and we'll answer any questions that we can.